very first rule of being in that table. It's totally normal and forgivable, as I said earlier in the download, to have your hands open from time to time. But if you see that somebody's in close, a good idea is always to curl those up into leopard fists. That's going to protect you from secondary impact, people coming, stomping, kneeling on your fingers. But it's also going to prevent him from having easy access to your fingers to strip and take your grip away. That being said, it's not always possible. Sometimes you need the adhesion and your hands will be open. A second thing to consider is that generally when we table, we're quite flat, as the name implies. So there is a difference between tabling and turtling. Tabling is when we're flat. Turtling is when I curl my tailbone under and I provide some degree of roundness. Let's see, Jordy is in here deep, deep, deep. He's got good adhesion. The second I turtle up, you'll see it lifts him and it makes this grip a little bit more tenuous. Or if Jordy was starting to sag, let's say he was trying to get his left leg over my back and trying to get a hook in. If I'm flat, it's quite easy, but the minute I start to turtle, it can already begin to take it off. Or if you get somebody in a bit of a diagonal position, let's say he goes and gets like a half Nelson, or he's trying to take my head down like that, as soon as I turtle, it gives me more strength in the neck as well. So I should always play with undulating between flat and round as my first position. I can play with lowering onto my forearms, and I can also play with crossing the forearm. And again, the reason we do this is that if I intend to lift up a hand to address one of these attachments, I'm losing my point of support here. So if I migrate that hand over, now between elbow and hand, I can replace that, make a narrower aperture for the table, but still give me some stability, and it lets me get to my hands. So I want to look at how I can strip this. He could be in a fisted hook like this, or he might even be inside the tendon. Here he might have a fist hook. He might have a short hook on the shoulder. He might even go for my neck and a half Nelson, which is more of a turnover technique. You can force and work with the table to weaken it, but the easiest way to remove it is always simply to grab it and brush it off. Grab it and brush it off. If it's a fist hook, it's the same work, but I can take the fist and I can just hook it up. Or if this is a fist hook, I can take the fist and hook it off. And the moment I do that, I should always address it. I should always keep it close to me, so if I then begin to slip out, I know exactly where it is as I turn. So I'll go from this side, go on that side. So again, whatever the position is, if it's here, we'll address the close side right in a second, but I can just strip with the far hand, or I can pull it into my body. But again, if I pull it in without replacing my post, I'm going to be prone to being driven down. We're going to talk about taking off the close side wrist ride in a second. For this point at this level, I just want to see I can take off my quarter Nelson, my half Nelson. I can take off a bicep address or a short hook here. It could be either fist or hand. I can take it off at either side. And when I do it, I should look for support. I can take off my thigh. And whenever I do this, I'm looking to sit out exactly the same motion as I had with my Turkish twist. I can sit out on either side. Short or long like a slide, turning and getting back onto my knees.